Good morning. Good morning. That's better. I bring you greetings this morning from the Colorado Springs branch of NAACP, which for 92 years has labored in this community, trying to ensure the political, social, educational, and economic equality of rights of all people and to end racial hatred and discrimination. I bring you greetings from our executive committee, and there are two of our executive committee members here, and this is the way we do it in the NAACP. I'd like for them to stand. Our treasurer, Linda Daly-Lameau. And our education committee co-chair, Barry Johnson-Fay. This is the way we do it in the NAACP. I'd also like to acknowledge the presence of this year's National Convention delegate, Mr. Pete Lee. I also bring you greetings today from our national office, from our National Board of Directors, and although he probably doesn't know that I'm here, I'm sure that he would sanction it. Our national president, the youngest national president of the NAACP, Benjamin Todd Jealous. On this day that is observed as the International Day of Peace, on this day that's known as World Peace Day, on this day that's dedicated to peace and more specifically to the absence of war, on this day, I think that it's fitting and proper that I rose before dawn, and those of you who know me know that that is not my golden time of day. But I think that it was fitting and proper that I rose and that I also wore my MLK pin and that I reflected on the mighty work that the Pikes Peak Justice and Peace Commission does in this community. A strong voice for social justice and nonviolence in this community. Now, when Pete Haney asked me to give this testimonial that I talk about how the JMP has changed my own life, I knew exactly what I would say. I knew I wouldn't talk about the NAACP, although I am going to say that on October 9th, we'll have our Freedom Fund Gala at the Crown Plaza Hotel. You're all invited. We all should be freedom fighters, especially those of us in this room. But I knew I wouldn't talk about the NAACP, although I'm always talking about it. And even sometimes about the NAACP and that despicable Dr. Laura. But we're not going to talk about that right now. I also knew that I wouldn't talk about my husband, Frank Lytle, who sends his greetings and his congratulations to the JMP today. Although I always find a way to talk about how we've been blessed to be partnered in this walk of life. But even though I've just talked about Frank, I'm not going to talk about Frank today. I knew that I would talk about my very favorite subject, and that is my darling daughter, Courtney Rose. Yes. And how Courtney Rose has been impacted by this organization, by this community, by this village known as the Pikes Peak Justice and Peace Commission. Now, the very first time that I ever heard those words, Pikes Peak Justice and Peace Commission, it was through two of Colorado Springs' most gifted artists, Sharon Carvell, a dear friend, and Mary Sprungerfors. So Sharon Carvell had tickets to a production that Mary was doing, and it was at the old JMP building, the one in the fire station. And I heard Justice and Peace, and I was working at the Gazette, and that's the only time I'm going to say that word. And I liked hearing Mark Arness, Justice and Peace. So we walked from Sharon's home, which was in Ship's Run, and we walked to the old JMP building, and we saw this incredible production. And I don't remember who it was exactly, but someone reached out to Courtney Rose, and they invited her to Peace Camp. Now that really, I like to think maybe that was the very first Peace Camp. But it was summer, and the Peace Camp was about to start, and it was a day camp, but it wasn't any old day camp. it was about peace. So she said, Mommy, I'd like to go to peace camp. And although, you know, I kept her closely under my wing, I decided, yes, she should attend this camp. And I asked her recently, what was peace camp all about? And she said, well, Mommy, it was about peace. I said, okay, what does that mean? And it meant it was about peace with our world, and peace with our neighbors, and peace with ourselves, and peace with God. She remembered all that. So she attended the peace camp for 2 summers, and then she was a camp counselor for 2 summers. And I can honestly say that that is where she began to develop her leadership skill, right there at that old JMP at the fire station. Later, she received the Peace Scholarship, and she was encouraged to apply for it by someone who's also in the room, John Goodwagen. Thank you, John. She used that scholarship to attend the Colorado College. But really, she used that scholarship and what she learned from this village to take her around the world, to France and to Canada and to West Africa and to Latin America. And now she's using all those skills in, of all places, West Alabama. Wow. West Alabama. Fort Deposit, Alabama, where she's working as a middle school teacher in a program called Teach for America. So I can say thank you, JMP, for helping Courtney Rose get to West Alabama. And I'm going to tell you, West Alabama is an interesting place to be a teacher. Fort Deposit, Alabama, where 100% of the students in her schools qualify for free lunch and are served free lunch and free breakfast every day, where 100% of her students need a teacher that has been developed, that sprung up out of a peace community. And for that, I really do, in all sincerity, say thank you. She needed to be a part of this community, and those students that she has now needed for her to be a part of a peace community. It's a mighty work. So I spoke with her this morning when she was driving from her apartment in Montgomery down to her classroom in Fort Deposit, and she told me to tell you thank you. She told me to tell you that you made a difference in her life. And she wanted me to tell all of you that you should contribute today, generously, especially to the Peace Scholarship, and that you keep on working for diversity and for inclusion and for social justice and for peace. Thank you so much.